We're ready for the second column of our note sheet, our point slope form. So go ahead and write down the formula for point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And if this is the first time you're seeing those little subscripts, don't worry. They're really just a way to notate that we're talking about a specific point on the line. So when you write the equation of your line in point slope form, you're going to still have a y and an x, but the y1 and the x1 are going to be replaced with the coordinates of a specific point on the line. So if you look at my example, I've identified 2 points. I've got this one up here at 1, 3. The x is 1, the y is 3. The other point is at -2, -1. And my slope can be found between those 2 points. So if I kind of zone in on this yellow point down here, to get to the other red point, I'm going right 3 and I'm going up 4. But remember that slope is rise over run. So my 4 is in the numerator, my 3 is in the denominator. And this is a positive slope because I'm going right and up to get to the next point. So my slope is 4/3, and you can see that I've filled in the slope value into my equation. And then my point that I chose was 1, 3. Now you could have chosen the other point, and I'm going to show that in just a second. But my point, if you look, goes in as x minus 1 and y minus 3. So we have different signs than maybe we were expecting, but that's because in the formula it says that you do y minus whatever the y value is of your point, and you do x minus whatever the x value is of your point. So let's look at the other point, because that would have been a valid point to use as well. If I were going to write an equation in point slope form using the point -2, -1, I would put y minus -1, because the y value of that point is -1, equals, the slope is still 4/3, I put a parenthesis, and then I put x minus -2. And if you're wondering where all this is coming from, it's coming from this formula. I'm just filling in everything that I know in the formula. And then you wouldn't leave your answer as this. You would actually simplify it down to y plus 1 equals 4/3 times x plus 2. And that would be a final answer for another option for an equation for this line. And if you were to transform these into slope-intercept form, solve for the y value, you would get the same equation here and here. They would turn into the same equation if you solve for y. So they are indeed the same line. Okay, so here's an example that I would like you to try. So I've kind of color-coded for you to make things easy. The slope is easy to find. It's the coefficient in front of that quantity. It's 2/3 for this equation. The point on the line is a little bit tricky. We need to list x first, and the x value is found right here. But remember that the formula actually says x minus whatever the x value is supposed to be. So this is going to be the opposite sign of what we're thinking. It's really a -1 for the x. And likewise, even though over here it says a -2 or a -2, in the point, we're only going to write a +2. So it's the opposite signs of what we're thinking. So if we want to graph this line, we put a point at -1, 2. And then we plot our second point using the slope. So we would go up 2, right 3. And our next point would be right here. So remember, we're going up and right because this is a positive slope. I could do that again, up 2, right 3. And I would have another point on the line. And then I just draw a line through those points. And I have graphed my equation that was in point slope form. Okay, last example for point slope form is writing the equation of a line. in point slope form, but you're given the graph. So let me just really quick show you where I intended for some points to be. Here and here. We'll go ahead and use those 2 points. So first, let's find the slope. So you might need to draw in your lines and then pick which point you want to start with. Maybe this time I'll start with the top one. Whoops. Let's undo those. Okay, so let's use this yellow point. To get to the red point, I have to go down 3. Notice I put minus for a down or a negative for a down. And then I go right 2. So this slope, rise over 1, would be down 3, right 2, negative 3 over 2. So that's our slope value. And then I pick any point I want. I just have to pick one that's on the line. So I'll just pick that top one, the yellow one. And that point is negative 1, comma 4. And I could have picked the red one. That would have been valid too. But I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to start writing my equation. So I keep the y, and then it says to write a minus. And then I'm supposed to put a y value, which is 4 from my point. And then I'm going to use my slope value, which is negative 3/2. And then it says to write a parenthesis and an x and a minus sign. And then I put my x1, which is the point or the coordinate negative 1. And notice that it says x minus negative 1, and that's because I'm following the formula. So my final way of writing this equation in point slope form is y minus 4 equals negative 3/2 times the quantity x plus 1, because a minus minus turns into a positive. Okay, so you should be ready now to go back to your quiz on quizzes with that same game code. You're just doing questions 3 and 4 right now.